Welcome back to the Crypto Factor and welcome back to Gareth Soloway, a favorite on this channel. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about stocks, gold, oil, cryptocurrencies in general, you name it. Gareth, welcome back, man. It's great to have you.
Great to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me back.
Man, you have some diehard fans. I don't know if you know that. Ever since we made our bet, you do remember our bet, by the way.
I do remember the bet.
Just to remind people, man, Gareth Soloway is betting by the end of this year, they will go down to 10 to 12K. I was betting 15 to 17K. Those are our ranges. We made a little bet about it. I'll leave the link to the bet at the end of this video. But basically, ever since I made that bet, I'm getting comments ranging from, I hope you lose that bet, not because I care about $100, but I want you to look stupid and the idiot you are, all the way to you dare make a bet with a master. I love it.
Oh, Lord help us all, man. Well, yeah, no one should be derogatory. That's the one thing I don't like. But a friendly bet between friends, there's nothing wrong with it.
I don't mind, man. But as things are getting closer, as you're looking at the Bitcoin price, you gave me a 70-30 chance I was right last time. Is it still the case, or are you looking at things a little different now? What do you think?
No, I think it's the same kind of thought process. For me, I'm looking at the charts, and it's a matter of when it goes to 12 to 13,000 for me. It's not if. So the question is if by the end of the year, which is the tougher kind of the tougher thing to happen in a very confined time frame. So I still think that's the case. I mean, there's definitely for me a 30% chance that by end of year it doesn't hit 12, 13,000. Maybe the low is 17.5 like it was, or maybe 15 like you were saying.
Right. And I just forgot what I was going to say. I forgot my thought process. We both, even though we made that bet, I want people to understand this. We're both doing the same thing. We're both buying under 20K, right, on the way down. We all have our levels. It's just I'm starting a little bit further up more aggressively. You're spacing it out more because you believe it will go lower. So just to make people understand that. But yeah, man. So let's open up Bitcoin. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, so Bitcoin continues to dance around the key level from 2017, right? And that's kind of been the level we've been around since June, which is absolutely remarkable that it stayed that long. So you can see very clearly, like if I zoom out on this chart, here's your 2017 high, and look at how you've just been chopping around this level. Here's a downsloping trend line that's resistance. You can see it hit right here, and then we kissed it right there as well. Now we are inching below that line. Yeah. So at some point, this area is going to give way, and you're going to see price action really tumble. And I think that's the case where I could win the bet, is if you really get that sell momentum to the downside here. That could be, again, what we could end up seeing. So let me get my arrow there. There we go.
Yes. And the truth is, the more you hit a support line or resistance line, the weaker it gets, and it's easier to take out, and the more aggressive it breaks. That's very true.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that, and you're still looking at 12 to 10K.
Yeah, for me, that's the target. That's the first target, right? So you're looking down to around here. The reason you get that level, you can see this pivot high right here from the mid cycle period. That's going to be a ton of support, and that's right around 13 to 12,000. So that's where I'm getting that technical level. It's also, I believe, a measured move where if you look at this, right? So let's do another trend line here. If we look at this move down here, this was pretty much a straight line. And then if you look at this move, and then basically you do another one like that, it takes you right down towards that percentage-wise level as well. And then lastly, the one thing you could point out too with the 12 to 13,000 level, it's the usual correction or bear market lows, right? 85% on Bitcoin. So there's another reason why that should be a little bit of support. You're going to get a lot of investors that are going to say, holy cow, we're down 80 to 85%. This must be the bottom. That probably means it's not, but at least it's a bounce level.
But that would mean it will either go even a lot lower than that, or it should stop higher.
No, you're right. You're right. So to me, I think you're going to get a bounce there just because that's the nature of charts where you're going to get some buyers to come in. But I have it penciled in. That's my high-end target. My low-end target, unfortunately, is all the way down to about 3,500, which would be your worst case scenario. So like if we repeat the .com collapse and everything like that, then you're looking at that 3,500, which would mirror the percentage drop that Amazon dropped when it collapsed in 2000 from the dot-com collapse.
And that is very possible. The truth is the macroeconomics are not helping this situation at all. And you know a lot more about that than I do. I'm maybe a technical trader, but I don't know macroeconomics and I don't understand the fundamentals behind macros, if you will, as much. What's going on now with that? What's going on with the Fed? What's going on with the world? What do you think? What's contributing to all this, Gareth?
Yeah, so I mean, this is, you basically look at the dollar chart, and the dollar is everything right now. So the dollar is all tied to the Federal Reserve. So the more aggressive the Fed tightens monetary policy, whether it's a 75 basis point hike, they're doing QT right now, which is quantitative tightening, which is sucking money out of the system. It's basically meaning there's less dollars in the system, therefore price of dollars goes up, right? So it's a supply demand analysis basically. And that's why the dollar's been so strong. The market hates that, right? The market has been addicted to free money, cheap money for so long. And so it's inevitably you have to see these asset prices come down because there's less money in the system to purchase these assets.
Yeah. And as the dollar goes up, Bitcoin, high risk assets, and of course, gold is actually going down along with this with other indicators. Let's look at gold real quick.
Yeah, so gold continues to kind of hover right around this support area here. So we can see right around this area, there's a lot of support. If we can draw a trend line, you kind of hit it here, 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 and all the way over. Now, the key is on gold is that a lot of people bash gold, but honestly, gold has been like, if I think anyone could go back and redo 2022, they would say, if you had to pick an asset, where would you put all your money? And the answer would probably be gold, because it's only down 5% or so on the year versus the S&P, Bitcoin, and all these other assets. So the fact is it's down because the dollar has been so strong. And I think this is important for investors to understand. If you were in Europe and you were trading with euros, if you're in Japan and you're trading with yen, then gold is actually positive or nearly positive on the year, but it's just because it's in dollars that it has taken a hit because the dollar has gotten so strong. The other thing to keep in mind is the dollar rallied 15% this year, right? Gold is only down 5 or 6%. To me, that's a strong standout. Because again, if you think about it, if someone told me at the beginning of the year the dollar was going to be up 15%, I would have said, okay, well, gold should be down 15% then, right? That's the equivalent. It should move 1-for-1 inverse to the dollar. And the fact that it's only down 5-6% to me is a relative strong indicator.
Do you think, where do you think gold's going to go down? Or do you think gold's going to go down lower? That looks like it's about to break as well. Where do you think gold is going to reach, and where would you be buying gold? Even though I know that, like myself, we buy gold occasionally.
Yeah. So I'm already in gold. I've already, but I'm in at a point where I would gladly add to it, as I'm a believer in it. I'm a believer that the Fed eventually goes back to lenient monetary policy when the economy gets bad enough. And so, for me, if it breaks here, you're probably headed to 1550 or so, this next pivot point, and that would be the next big area of support on a technical basis.
Would you be buying there as well? Would you be buying aggressively or just slowly?
I think for me, it would be medium. It wouldn't be ridiculously aggressive because for sure I've been around long enough to know that even my best levels can fail, right? So it's knowing that the level is a good level. It's understanding the macro analysis with the Fed and with what's happening with the dollar and the gold chart. Eventually, the dollar is going to pull back as soon as, and this is the key, guys, if the Fed comes out on Wednesday and they're like, okay, we're going to raise by 75 basis points, but we're going to maybe be slightly less aggressive, the dollar will drop sharply and gold will rip to the upside. So basically, as soon as we see that pivot by the Fed, that's when gold starts to take off because the dollar will drop. And by the way, you'll see a bounce in Bitcoin there. You'll see a bounce in stocks. I mean, all risk assets will get a bid when the dollar falls.
Talking about stocks, let's have a look at this S&P 500. What kind of bloodshed's going on over there?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm keeping an eye on here is that we did break this upward sloping trend line just a few days ago, and it does leave the markets a little vulnerable going into the Fed. So, as much as I think the Fed should be pivoting because I'm worried about the global and domestic economies, this chart does tell us that there's a chance that, and it probably will ultimately happen, is, we may get a bounce on the Fed, we may not, but it's going to be short-lived, and then the markets are going to curl down and retest their June lows here. So the S&P chart is not a great chart right now. It's a little oversold, which leaves the door open for maybe a 1 to 3 day bounce. But ultimately, as long as it stays below this line, the most likely, the probabilities dictate a move down to this June low.
Got you. Are you looking at any stocks in particular? Any stocks separately?
Yeah, so there's a few out there that I've been kind of, eyeing. So one of them that if the Fed does pivot, I think is oversold is this chart of Microsoft. So Microsoft's at a nice little pivot point down here. That's kind of a nice one. Ultimately, I do think down the line, Microsoft goes lower, but on a shorter term basis, you should see some sort of bounce here. Another one, and this one's been kind of the frustration of me is GSK. GlaxoSmithKline. It pays a monster dividend. It's a pharma play, which in recessions, pharma, if you need your diabetes drugs, if you need your blood pressure drugs, you're still going to buy them, right? I mean, they're not going away. They are dealing with some lawsuits right now. But to me, this chart just screams technical bounce. In addition, look at this trend line that just hit here. Let me go to my weekly chart. And you could see right here, this trend line right across, and you're hitting it right there. So there should be some sort of technical bounce coming on GlaxoSmithKline here in the near term. That's kind of one of those plays where in a bad market, it's probably not a bad play to hold because it pays a big dividend and it's already discounted.
Got you. I'm going to actually look into that myself. Any others?
Let me see here. Ooh, that's a good question. No, I think for the most part, I mean, some of the tech names are beaten up, like a Meta. Yep. They could be getting close to a bounce level. You can see these levels on Meta I've isolated down as major technical support. So that's still a little ways lower. It looks like the high end is around 138, so still another potential $8 lower. But that does look like a really good bounce level on Meta. And then for me, I'm continually looking to GLD. I've even kind of scanned TLT today, which is inverse bond. So when yields go up, this goes down. But it's getting close to some interesting levels here, and it's really oversold. And what that could also be is a Fed pivot. If the Fed pivots, then you're going to see this start to rip to the upside in the near term as well. So I would say those are the majority of them. I'm kind of being as careful as I can, but still trying to create alpha.
So I got a couple of cryptocurrencies I've been eyeing that the price action is actually quite positive, and I see similarities of price actions in the past where I called Solana and I called ADA when it was very low. I wanted to take a look at them with me and see if you agree. And one of them is Vulcan Forge.
Okay, what's the symbol on that one?
I think it's PYR.
PYR. Let's see what we got here. Okay, I mean, right now, just looking at the chart, if I'm looking at the right chart, I don't see much movement on it. Looks like it's kind of been dead for a while. So again, it doesn't mean it can't wake up, but for me, this would be like, okay, it's not falling sharply into support. It's not ripping into resistance. So as a swing trader, I would just sit on the sidelines with this one, for me at least.
But do you think it's a positive way that it's not going down lower? Shouldn't it be down a lot lower with everything that's going on right now?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly has flatlined now since May. And so that does tell you that really there's not a whole lot of sellers left. So that could be a positive, absolutely. Or it could be the fact that maybe there's just not a lot of interest. I mean, some of these cryptos, and again, I don't know the market cap on this, but I think as the bear market gets deeper and deeper, there are a certain amount of cryptos that people are just like, hey, listen, I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not going to trade it anymore. So I'd have to look at the volume on this as well and see, is there a lot of volume or is it kind of dried up recently? And could that be why there's just no interest in it?
Got you. What about ApeCoin?
Ape, let's take a look. I mean, Ape's kind of interesting. I mean, this one, you had the nice move up and then the down. You have a little bit of a rounded bottom here. It's not a horrible chart. I would say right off the bat, what I'm seeing here looks like a little bit of a trend line right there, and you're kind of coming up. So that would be the line I would look for as a breakout. If you could get above, it looks like around $6.50. That would be a nice little mover where you could at least trade to 770 and then maybe as high as around 9.5. On the downside, you just wouldn't want to see this line break, right? So very clear pivot to pivot to pivot. And so basically you want it to stay above $4.70. And so basically what this is a wedge pattern, and it is coming to a head, which tells you it's either going to break out or break down. And then it's just a matter of whichever way it goes. Usually that's the big move that it's going to have.
Right. And then finally, I'm looking at Cosmos.
Cosmos. What's the symbol on that?
Atom. ATOM.
ATOM. Take a look. You can tell I don't pay attention to,
Mhm.
even though Atom's actually not that small of a one, but I just, for me, I'm like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, those
Yeah,
big
of course,
players.
of course. I just like there's a few of them I just eyed that because I've been looking at them so long, and I thought it was interesting what they were doing during the bear market. And
Yeah.
obviously, I'm looking at these not to buy right now. I'm looking as you're coming out of a bear market, if they still exist, then it's a
Yeah.
good time to buy. Yeah.
So this trend line's the big trend line on this one here. You can see how it connects through so many lows. So as long as that holds, you would look at that as being a potential positive for the chart, meaning that any sort of pullback close to that line, you could buy, and then you could just use a stop below the line. If it breaks
Yes.
down, you close out for a small loss. But the nice thing about it is you have a very defined line there to pay attention to. So yeah, overall it looks okay to me. Again, I would just keep that stop right underneath that line.
Got you. Now, let me ask you this. Have you looked at all the relation between Ethereum and Binance, BNB? Because I've actually noticed something. If you actually compare BNB to Binance Coin, sorry, Ethereum to Binance Coin, have a look. Because I think something interesting is happening there, at least for the time being. And it might be a good trade if you want to trade within crypto, if you believe in Ethereum, by the way, for later on.
All right, here, let's take a look. So I slapped in the Ethereum chart and then I overlaid the orange line as the BNB chart. And it looks like it's following it very closely, especially recently, very, very closely. What are you seeing? What were you seeing on this?
I was saying BNB being actually a chance to overtake Ethereum for a while.
Oh, interesting in terms of price action, in terms of, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It looks like right here it flipped, right? So here it was below, then it flipped to outperforming and it's staying above it for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a bad chart. And one thing I see here too is you have a very defined kind of line here where you could see if a potential breakout there. Ethereum obviously is seeing selling pressure following the merge. Kind of the news is over. Let's get back to kind of selling into it and taking profits. But I will say Ethereum, $1,250 is a really big level for Ethereum. If it can hold that, that's the key. If it breaks that, then you're going to go retest the lows below 1,000.
Yeah, so my thought process was if you were to get a bounce in Bitcoin or a short-term bounce, altcoins will probably go up. BNB might be a good one to get into, then flip into Ethereum to be able to get more Ethereum in the future for the Ethereum heads out there. What do you think about Ethereum, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ethereum, again, the beautiful thing about that is that you have a scenario where if 1250, and I almost bought it at 1250 the other day, and it got down to like 13, the kind of the high 12s, and it just didn't get down to that technical level. But that is a huge level on Ethereum, and it was definitely a level that I was paying very close attention to. So here I can show my chart, and we can just look at that line again just by itself. But basically, you have let me see here. Ethereum US dollar chart. That's the 10-minute chart. Let me go back to the daily chart. Here you go. So you can see this pivot high and how it kind of went up. It pulled back, went up, pulled back, then it broke out. And there's this tendency for it to retrace to that line, which is going to be big support. This was resistance. When resistance is broken, it becomes support. And so the idea here, and just yesterday, I was looking to buy it there. It just didn't get there. That's part of trading. For those of you watching, you isolate your levels. You remain extremely disciplined at your levels. And if it doesn't fill sometimes, you just kind of say, okay, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Exactly. And that's the hardest part, actually, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
People just get in after because it doesn't reach down at the level, but they chase. And that is a recipe for destruction or a wrong mindset for later on. What's going on with oil, Gareth? I'm filling up my car. It's it's a little bit better, but I don't know.
Yeah, so this is real interesting on oil, right? So number one, yes, it's super nice to go. I still fill up at Costco, and it's a lot cheaper than it was. So that's the nice thing about it. One of the things I'm watching is this trend line. Look at this trend line going back to 2020 November lows. So you could see how you hit it here. I could zoom in a little bit. You hit it and you bounced. Now you're hitting it again. If this line breaks, you've got downside to like $76. So I mean, I'm in the position where at some point, number one, we know the Russian oil didn't get taken off the market. It just got sold at a discount to other countries. So that was never an issue. And that was kind of like a misnomer, if you will. But basically, you're coming into the midterms. That's all. You always see oil trade down into the midterms. And we've seen that over the last few months. And then you also have this, I mean, Europe's in a really tough economy right now, and the U.S. is probably headed there because the Fed is being so aggressive. China's not doing great. The rest of the world's not doing great. And so you could literally see a reduction in demand of millions and millions of barrels of oil. And so price will be probably pushed down. So I wouldn't be short here because you're at support, but I am anticipating at some point oil is going to break this. And then you're going to see a pretty nice drop on oil even further.
And do you think the dollar has to be going up at that time, or do you think it's relevant?
Yeah, for oil, it's never been as big of an issue because oil moves on so much geopolitical kind of stuff and economic stuff. So the dollar does play a small, minor role, but it's not as big versus gold, for instance. But yeah, for me, it would be irrelevant of that. Whatever, maybe it would cushion if the dollar pulls back, maybe it cushions a little bit, but it would still drop into the 70s pretty quick.
Got you. Okay, one final question. Let's close the charts. How are you, Gareth? How are you doing?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I know you're going through some stuff right now, and my thoughts are with you for sure. And yeah, man. I mean, I wish I could do more, to be honest.
No, man, you're doing great, man. You're doing enough. I love having our talks. I love our little bet. I think it's fun. It keeps me going. And I'll see you back here again in about 2 weeks.
Absolutely, buddy. I'll be back, and I'll be looking forward to talking about the Fed and all the stuff going on and seeing where the markets are.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for coming by. I'll see you next time. Follow Gareth. Follow Gareth up here. Take care, buddy.
Take care.